everyone, welcome back to the Journey of Now podcast with myself, Karis, and my partner, Nick. And we have been having quite a week reflecting back on our journey in terms of like not just how we got here, but also the steps that have taken us to where we are now. And I mean, we've had a lot of questions or just curiosity from other people just wanting to ask like how we did it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was just reflecting back on a principle in terms of how we've lived our life and something that might not have made sense even to like myself in the moment when making these decisions. But now you can sort of see how everything pieces together. And it was based on, when I listened to this podcast by Michael Neal, and he speaks about a quote from this woman who shifted Myanmar from this dictatorship to what it is now. And everyone was worried about like, is she going to get killed because of the decisions she's making and how radical she is in her approach to things. And her response to that was, fear is a habit and I am not afraid. And as soon as I heard it, it was like this, whoa, okay, that's genuinely how I've viewed life and how we've gotten here to a degree. I think that's a philosophy that I didn't even know that's how we have built our life. And I used to call it intuition or this, and yes, you can still call it those things, but if you really look at it from an oversimplified perspective, fear is a habit. And to say that I am not afraid and to do it anyway is one of the biggest acts of like rebellion and courage to a system that wants to keep us safe and secure. But what does safety and security then mean to people? And what does living a life that you love then mean? And so we just wanted to dive a bit deeper into this and sort of see where it takes us. We haven't planned anything. This is not it's just a conversation.
I think it ties into just when you're making a certain decision over and over again, you will naturally breed more of the same through your action or inaction. And you will multiply that over time. And I think the gravity of one's decision or the weight of the decision is not necessarily felt within the moment, but it is felt in time. It is felt over a period of time. And I think that's where we begin to really see like, oh goodness, was this a good decision? Was this the best decision? And I don't want to necessarily say, was it the right decision? But from what space was I making that choice in that moment? Because only a couple of years or months down the line will you start recognizing the ripples of that decision. And if you were making a decision within the framework of sameness and safety, 10 to 1, that decision will yield the same result.
I think a lot of where that sense of safety and sort of internal struggle with that sense of safety comes from is watching our parents when we're growing up. And I think it's the same for a lot of us. We watch our parents doing a job that they don't like. And we watch a lot of so-called like grown-ups around us living out the same story, the same narrative of I'm in a job that I don't like, with living a life with a person that I'm not like deeply passionate about. And if you were lucky enough to experience a really loving and deeply passionate dynamic from your parents and seeing what healthy love looks like, amazing. You're in probably like the top 5% of the world, because the majority of us didn't experience that or get to see that as the norm.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that is the secret to success at all. The point of what I'm trying to say is we watch our parents live out these stories, and it's either going to propel you into going the complete opposite way, where you choose to live a life for yourself, no matter the consequences, no matter what the cost or the loss is, okay? Because at the end of the day, you know what you're gaining. There is a bigger sense of vision, even if you might not understand it. But, or you go the opposite way, which is choosing that sameness, like you said.
But I think it's also got to tie into the risk parameters, like what is your default settings?
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, have you questioned those settings, those limits that you've placed upon yourself and in turn your life? Because here's an example.
Okay.
You know, you might be someone who's like, you know, I'm happy driving a Prius. Mm-hmm. That's a risk profile that makes sense to me. And yes, there's a lot of other variables and things, but let's do this. I'm just using this as a stereotypical example.
Yeah.
One would then settle for need
Yeah.
versus strive for want. And it's this thing of, I'm going to play really small in this moment, because you know what, it actually just doesn't make sense for me to, you know, shake things up a little bit in my reality and make a few different decisions and see if I can dangle and shift a few things to turn this, you know, possibility into something concrete where, you know, maybe I can get that Audi or that BM or that Land Rover or Range Rover. Maybe if I can actually go for my dream vehicle, and maybe it doesn't necessarily make complete sense on paper.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that most people get stuck in. They get stuck in this idea of risks and ones and zeros, but you're not living your fucking life on paper.
No.
And you're not living in the shadow of your parents or your forefathers.
I mean, this is something that my grandfather did. You know, I mean, I'm always going to relay these things back to the stories that shaped me. And I think we all do that through the lens of how we understand things. And my grandfather saved, and he did really well with his finances, but he always wanted to travel. And he died unfortunately, he died really young. And he never got to spend any of those ones with zeros. He lived a very safe life on paper. And even with my parents, like, I always hear them speak about how much they want to travel and how much they want to do these things. But and that's, I think, the thing that propelled me. And I'm very grateful that they gave me an opportunity to be able to do that, because it shifted my whole lens on things. But I would love for them to do the same thing as well, you know?
It's that whole thing of like, you're fighting for your limits.
Yeah.
So I think the question that I want to pose to you, the person listening here today, is, what limits are you fighting for within your life? And are those the limits that you've set for yourself, or the ones that you've agreed to because of how you were brought up or the people you've surrounded yourself with? Because here's the thing, you're the one that's actually living your life. And when you begin to question those limits, that's when your reality begins to shake. And it's very uncomfortable, because you build this safe place, this warm, comfortable space that you think you have some sense of control of.
But do you really?
But you don't have control in there. So why not explore and get curious and ponder and, you know, ask for something bigger, ask for something more. And essentially you end up living a half life. And I say this to my clients all the time. It's like this what if life. You know, what if I made that big decision in my relationship to have that conversation and say, hey, I have fallen out of love with you, and I have fallen out of love with life, and I have fallen out of love with myself. And I'm here wanting to take accountability and responsibility, and maybe it's actually not even you. Maybe it's me. But I need to look at me. I need to have those introspective conversations and get really real, really raw, and really vulnerable. And I'm not sure how that's going to shake things up. And I'm needing to make the selfish choice here, because if I don't,
we're not going to make it.
We are not going to make it, maybe. And on top of it, you're not going to be happy. I'm not going to be happy. And do we want to continue living another 20, 30, 40 years the way that we've done the last decade or two?
Do you know, it's so funny how many times you'll have that conversation come up and then a lot of people will respond with, oh, better the devil, you know.
There's the safety thing again. There's the ones and zeros. It doesn't make sense because all of our assets are together, and then we have to halve it, and then it's going to get really messy.
We hate each other.
We hate
we
each
can't stand
other,
each other. We don't even talk to each other.
But it's more inconvenient to not be with each other.
Yeah.
So let's just live a life filled with hate, disconnect, stonewalling, disengagement, resentment, contempt. Let's continue with this list. Let us create and facilitate an environment where our kids have to grow up and repeat the same patterns that we are unwilling to break. Because what is that quote that you shared with me? I think, was it a TikTok or was it a post? Something on the lines of it was the thing of like, if we don't break the patterns, like our kids are going to relive the patterns or something like that. Like, we relive the pattern, that thing.
All the things that we have refused to heal or refused to look at within ourselves, we will watch our children repeat, and then it will be like watching a horror movie of our children doing the things that we wish we had changed within ourselves.
We were unwilling to do because we were scared, and that
I still have like goosebumps.
That is the core of this conversation today.
Yeah.
What fucking scares you that you're unwilling to look at, that makes you so uncomfortable that your skin begins to crawl in your relationship, in your sexuality, within yourself? Because this is the thing of, oh my goodness, I have to actually take off the mask of being a parent, being a father, being a mother, being a partner, being an addict, being a business owner, being my bank account. You are none of those things. Your name is what? And that name does not have to be associated with any role or responsibility.
Or anything that equates to something, that you do or that you bring to the table, or whatever thing people want to equate to your worth as a human being on this planet.
And by default, what do you get when you begin to ask these questions? Oh, wait, what do you get when you don't? A midlife crisis.
Yeah, because safety brings this sleepiness to your life, and it's so interesting because I'll listen to client calls or when
just in general conversation.
Yeah, there's
people,
like a sleepiness, and it's even in the voice. There's like this monotone, and there's no real lust for life. It's just like, oh, it is what it is. Like, I'm happy where I am, and that's fine if you're happy where you are and all these things. I'm not saying you have to be radical in any of these things, but what I am saying is that if you are unhappy in the place where you are right now, and you feel like you've lost that zest for life, you've lost that thing that excites you, you don't have any inspiration or creativity, but then I invite you to really question, are you making decisions from a space of safety? Has your fear become a habit that is running your life? Or are you approaching life with a sense of curiosity? And this is something that, I mean, even for myself, it's like I've had to question, what are my biggest fears? Are they even real? Are they my own? And what would happen if they did come true? And a lot of them actually did. Even things that were worse than what I feared happened.
We went beyond that, for sure.
And I'm so grateful that life gave me those lessons from a very young age, because now I know from a deep internal space that there is nothing on this earth that could shake me in terms of, or could make me lose my sense of self, or that is so big that it would, it's not going to kill you. Just do it. Do you know, it's just about taking that first step. You're not going to die. So, I don't know.
This isn't here to motivate you.
Nope.
This is just maybe that last call, that final, opportunity for you to just wake up, and maybe you just needed to hear it in a different way.
Yeah.
But your life has not been lived on paper. You are not living in the shadow of your forefathers. And honestly, I love this test. It's such a beautiful test. Go sit on that rocking chair when you're 80, if you're lucky enough to get there, and go reminisce on the life you either lived or you didn't, the choices you made or were unmade.
Yeah.
And are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you satiated? Or are you sitting there like just sitting with this weight of life that is left unlived, and you can do nothing because your body is unable to facilitate the desire that you now have, yet you weren't willing to meet.
It's the equivalent of someone waiting till they are retired to go and travel the world.
Yes,
but now you don't have the energy, you don't have your health, and
or the excuse of, I had to sacrifice my life for my children. Oh my goodness, that I love hearing that. Yeah. That is the first thing that I say. I'm not sacrificing anything in my life. My children have catalyzed so much change and introspection within myself. I would not be the same human being.
And I will never use them as an excuse to not do the things that we have always wanted to do. Like
maybe it takes a little longer. Yeah. Maybe it takes more planning. Maybe it takes more patience.
But I will never not travel or do the things that we've had on our list of things to do because, oh my gosh, I've got children, I can't do those things. So
that's the thing. You will fight for your limitations. So go and question your set point limits. Go and look at the spaces you don't want to look. Go and get really uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And this isn't about reading a self-help book or doing a breath work or a meditation. This is just looking at practical, tangible things in your life that you haven't necessarily been wanting to do, but no, you've been wanting to do them, but you've been too scared to do them.
This has got nothing to do with introspection or sitting and looking at your stories. Yes, it does have a component of that, but this is the thing of just like going and doing something. This is an action-based thing that is going to shift the motion of your life. And once you start building that sense of motion and getting the ball rolling, you'll just find like, whoa.
The other limitations will begin to show themselves, and you'll be able to see them, question them, and actually, make ideally a more empowered decision that's not in alignment with, need, but in alignment with want and desire and growth and expansion and even excitement.
Okay, I wasn't going to go there, but yeah, yes. Okay. I mean, it is valid.
But that's where life has been.
I was just going to say, I mean, you'll find that like once you start getting the ball rolling, there's all of these synchronicities and all of these things that just start showing up where everything just starts working out. And then it's like, whoa, actually, like I'm on the right track. Everything's just making sense. And it's not done. The first step is never rational. And you just have to be willing to take it. And I promise you will be met. And
with a lot of resistance from everyone else around you because they'll say you're crazy. But that's the best sign. Then you're on the right track.
Yeah, then you're on the right track. But it's also having that faith in yourself to know like, hey, I'm sticking to what I need to do. Because we all have a very individual journey and purpose on this plane of existence. We incarnated for those things. And so you just have to be brave enough to ask yourself, like, am I actually going to live it or not? And going back to that sleepiness and all these things, and just with client responses to things, they'll always say like, but it's too late and I've made all these really bad decisions and now I'm here. And it's so interesting to be able to, and I think it's such a gift to have a life where we are surrounded by so many people that are much older than us, and to witness how that sleepiness or that dis-ease that they have within themselves.
And the complacency that they had for the time that they've spent or misspent.
Yes, or like the regrets that they have, how much where they are now, it has caused like this, like no, they're not at peace within themselves or the decisions that they've made.
It's like stonewalling yourself from life.
Yeah, and so now there's all of these, it's not just physical health problems, but really you can see
there's no happiness.
Exactly, and it's, I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, I'm
you
sure
can see a person that's tuned, like plugged in.
Yeah.
And you can see a person that's unplugged. And it feels like...
I would even say just like someone that's happy and at peace versus someone that's like, oh my gosh, trying to make your problems their problems, trying to worry and stress about everything and like trying to fill their life with your stuff instead of living a life for themselves, if that makes sense. And
that makes sense.
so there's varying degrees of it, but I think we're very lucky to have seen that, because it forces you to question things. And I think it's such a gift, because not forces you, but like it invites that question within yourself of like, is that something that I want? Is that the copy and paste of something that I want to live? No. So you are the custodian of your own life and your life force, but how you use it and what you use it for is either going to bring in more energy, more zest for life, more of that abundance of whatever it is for you. Or it's going to bring less. And the further away you are from yourself, and the further away you are from that the thing that you are here to do, and the more that you close yourself off to that, the more that you invite that sense of dis-ease, which literally results in disease within the physical system, because it starts in the mind. You have disconnected yourself from life itself and from your personal life. And it is such a massive thing. So when I hear people say, oh, it's too late, and then I reflect to like Louise Hayes, who only started her business in her 60s, or so many other people who only started in their 60s or 70s or 80s and they were successful then. I promise you, if you decide, it doesn't matter what age you are or how late you think it is or how many regrets you have, if you decide today, okay, cool, I want to move closer to what it means to live my purpose or anything like that, it will show up. That the first step will show up no matter where you are, but you just have to be brave enough to just be like, okay, I'm willing, I'm able, I can. And that's it.
And I just want to bring this to a close with just sharing. I had a client who had used drugs for the majority of their lives. For about,
he was in his 70s.
Yeah, in his 70s. Used it for about 30, 40 years. And in his early 70s, he recognized that he needed to change. He recognized that everything came full circle, and there was this click, this yearning, this desire to really look at himself and get on track in his own way and live without a substance driving him to be in a certain way. And not that he hadn't lived a really good life. It looked great. It might have been wild and exciting. Yet he wanted to experience life just, getting high on his authenticity and on himself. And the fact that someone of that age, and this is the point that I'm trying to make, the fact that someone in their 70s, who you'd maybe classify in the last quarter of their life, essentially.
Yeah, you'd probably say to yourself, oh, my life is over. Like, I don't...
That they're willing to question everything, their entire existence, to that point, forgive themselves, find peace within themselves, find a depth of self that they had never explored or thought was possible. I'm just going to leave that there. The fact that someone is willing to still look for that, even at that age, after, most people would say, oh, you could just write off that life. That they were willing to find the life. And, I mean, obviously, there's a limited amount of time that's left, but none of us are the judge, jury, and executioner. You've got people in their 20s that move on.
Yeah.
We've got people in their 40s, kids. We don't know when that moment is going to be for ourselves. So do you really want to take away the opportunity of life that is available to you now within the present by playing this game of fear and living in the space of survival, when you can make choices that really fuel you, that really ignite this passion?
It goes back to that Buddhist principle of like how you live your life is how you'll die to some extent. And so if you live your life in a way that's for yourself and you spend your energy, you don't fight with death, you welcome it peacefully. You don't, it's a much more peaceful way to die than to die with the regrets and all the life you never lived and how you're not ready. You meet death with a sense of, oh, welcome, my friend. Versus, I'd like for you to leave. So when people say, oh, but I'm scared and all these things, I don't hear, oh my gosh, these are valid stories. I hear excuses. And I hear how you have made fear a habit. And there's a whole life on the other side of that. And it is so worth just taking that first step. So really just bringing in that concept instead of, okay, fear is just a habit, but I am not afraid. And I'm willing to meet life with a sense of curiosity instead of fear. I'm willing to meet life with a sense of, being able to question things instead of it's final in whatever decision I make. So just wanted to leave you with that.
Yeah, you're not black and white.
Nope.
Life isn't black and white. There's an infinite spectrum of color and texture and smell and feeling that goes along with that. And you're the conductor of that. So choose. Make the choice.
Make the shift.
Make the shift.
Make the shift, guys.
Make the shift. Yes, yes.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for listening. And thank you for making us a part of your journey of now. Have a beautiful day or evening. And
we'll be back soon when
we will be back.
We'll be back soon. No. We'll be back when we find another 20 minutes to lay on the couch and record a podcast before we have to pick up the kids.
Oh my gosh.
Have a beautiful week.